Protesters here telling me they are not happy with the Trump administration, taking issue with everything from DOGE to tariffs and deportations.
Hey, ho, ho. Donald Trump has got to go.
If I could have 10 signs, I would, but I don't have enough arms.
Protesters started in Pioneer Square before marching through downtown Portland Saturday afternoon.
A few thousand.
Jack O'Connor stumbled on the demonstration.
There are a lot of different messages here.
The list goes on.
Natalie says she's protesting for many reasons. For one, she's against the Trump administration's tariffs and concerned about rising prices.
Try to buy a car in a month, good luck. You're going to pay thousands and thousands of more dollars for everything.
Most of those reciprocal tariffs are on pause. The Trump administration says their goal is to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. and are focused on the long term.
This is what democracy looks like.
As the march snaked through the Rose City, Portland police closed the roads. TriMet riders also faced some delays. Some in the crowd carried signs taking aim at the administration's immigration policy.
I made this sign specifically. We need to bring him home. We need to give him due process.
Patrick Blewett is talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a migrant recently deported to El Salvador.
He was in the U.S. legally, no matter what the Trump administration says.
This man is according to certified statements that we get, is a very violent person.
The protest ended around 2 in the afternoon. Portland Police Chief Bob Day posted on social media calling this a peaceful event and thanking everyone for prioritizing safety. In Portland, Ashley Graham's KGW
Rally
News.
is part of the 50-51 movement. Activists say it stands for 50 states, 50 protests, and one movement. While a similar sight could be seen in cities across the United States, this is what it looked like in Shoreline on Saturday, as activists lined the street at the intersection of 205th Street and Aurora Avenue to stand against what they're calling threats from the Trump administration. They say they're taking a stance against a number of actions, such as funding cuts at universities, the president's defiance of the law, and Elon Musk's role and influence in the White House. We talked with Liz Brown, who is no stranger to demonstrations. She says she came out on Saturday because most progress made in America is often pushed by mass protests.
I'm very concerned for the future of our democracy. I'm also just concerned about all the people who will be hurt by the policies that the president has put into place. And last time I checked, nobody voted for Elon Musk.
We checked the movement's website, and more than 500 Day of Action events were scheduled nationwide on Saturday alone. And those who came out today say they will continue to organize, resist, and build together as long as it takes. In Shoreline, Shiramat's Zala Fox.
Top story, protests erupting across the country in opposition to the Trump administration. And that includes right here in San Antonio. Today's rallies are on a significant date, the start of the American Revolutionary War 250 years ago. The demonstrations are part of the hands-off 5051 protests, a nationwide movement representing 50 states with one unified message. KENS 5's Rania Kaur was at today's protest downtown.
Those marching here today tell us they hope them coming out here and standing up helps make a change in what they say is happening in our country.
A call for change Saturday morning that has politicians and people aligned.
We're really upset with the state of our country right now. I think we care more about protecting capitalist agenda as opposed to protecting our kids.
Several hundred people marched the streets of San Antonio, fueled by decisions made by the Trump administration, including rising food costs, federal firings, immigration, gun control, reproductive health care, voting rights, in what many are calling the billionaire takeover.
We have three independent branches, the judicial, the executive, and the legislative, and he's totally ignoring the judicial branch.
It's one of many protests happening across the country. The protests are being organized through 5051, a grassroots organization that began on social media to organize 50 protests in 50 states in one day.
We stand for nonviolence, we stand for inclusion, and we stand against genocide.
Their hope is that others are also inspired to make a difference.
I'm very concerned about Texas specifically. Our government seats are very bought out by private interests, and I want to see more voices available and pushing forward so we can gain some momentum and changing Texas to purple.
Rania Kaur, KENS 5.
Well, there are massive crowds that showed up here today to the Daily Plaza here in downtown Chicago. You could see the number of signs, the number of people. All of them say they're protesting the Trump administration when it comes to hands off the courts, immigration laws, and foreign affairs. They say now is the time to stand up to the administration.
Chicagoans sending a statement to the Trump administration today, growing frustrated with many of the president's policies. A number of organizations joined in on the rally at Daily Plaza, protesting for reproductive rights, immigration laws, international peace, and federal funding to critical programs.
The science, the universities, research, freedom, no arrests without due process.
People are awake, alive, paying attention, and ready to step out and do something against this horrible administration.
Protests against the administration have continued across the country, as well as suburbs throughout Illinois. Crowds gathered in Arlington Heights today protesting for the same reason. In Chicago, the rally lasted a couple hours. One of the organizers is an assistant professor at UIC, where she says they're already facing adversity.
Our federal funding is at risk, or some of it is gone. We are very concerned about the attacks on education, the attacks on our students.
Others planning to continue these protests nationwide, as one woman says she's planning a march from Philadelphia to D.C. in hopes of sharing the stories of people impacted by policy decisions.
We, the people, are what makes the difference. That if we all stand up together, we can make change in our government.
Mr. President, you got to do the right thing, and you're not.
There were no counter-protesters in Chicago today, and we reached out to the Illinois GOP for comment, but did not hear back.
These organizers tell us this will not be the last time they're getting together to rally against the administration. Many more protests planned in the next coming weeks.
These protests come just 2 weeks after thousands of demonstrators took to the streets across the country to express their opposition to the policies of the Trump administration. In Manhattan today, protesters rallied against continued deportations of immigrants. Some of the protesters even referenced themes from the American Revolutionary War. Today marked 250 years since the battles of Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts started the conflict. And here's what the streets looked like in Denver, Colorado. Protesters there blasted the Trump administration's move to fire thousands of federal workers, close Social Security Administration field offices, scale back protections for transgender people, and cut federal funding for health programs. Protesters say they view this administration's policies as violations of Americans' constitutional and civil rights. And at our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., demonstrations today were initially part of the hands-off movement, but many participants also called for the return of 29-year-old Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Right now, Abrego Garcia is being held in a prison in El Salvador after being mistakenly deported there from Maryland last month. The Trump administration claims he's a gang member of the MS-13 street gang, despite lack of evidence. The White House and the El Salvador's president says Abrego Garcia will remain in prison.
All right, Brandon. Well, right now, demonstrators are heading out for another anti-Trump protest this morning. The 50-51 protest. It will be held nationwide.
That's right. The movement stands for 50 protests in 50 states, and one of those demonstrations is actually underway right now in Miami. So let's get over to Local 10's Hannah Yashivi. She's live at Bayside with a look at the scene there this morning. Hannah.
And we have been seeing similar protests in recent weeks against the Trump administration and some of its moves. Today is no different. This one is forming right by the Torch of Friendship right here in downtown Miami. If you take a look right here behind me, you can see a lot of these protesters gathering here. They actually just started to arrive. This peaceful protest just starting at 10 this morning. Organizers are calling it a Miami Day of Action. You can see here people holding signs that read all sorts of messages against the president and his administration. Organizers telling me they are here to stand for democracy. These protesters also believe people should all take a stand on big topics, including immigration, education, climate change, veterans' rights, and national security. They claim this administration has betrayed people and they're not happy with what the president is doing with this country. We know teachers are here, parents, even kids are here. So once again, this peaceful protest is happening on Biscayne Boulevard by the Kaseya Center here in downtown Miami. We also spoke to one of the organizers about why he says people should wake up.
If you love the country, I think you got to come out and make that clear, voice that. You know, we don't just do protests, we try to do everything we can. Today's event is also in large part a community outreach event. We're trying to stand up for our fellow citizens and the most vulnerable amongst us, since the government is actively going after them.